The world watched in astonishment on April 2, 2025. The news broke early in the morning, sending ripples through financial markets and political circles alike. It was a day that would be remembered for its far-reaching implications. Donald Trump, in a move reminiscent of his previous trade wars, announced sweeping new tariffs on almost all imports. This bold decision was made during a press conference where Trump emphasized the need to protect American interests and jobs. These tariffs, ranging from a minimum of 10% to as high as 49%, sent shockwaves across the globe. Financial analysts quickly predicted a turbulent period ahead, with stock markets reacting almost instantaneously. Major economies like China, the EU, and Japan found themselves in the crosshairs. The announcement led to emergency meetings among global leaders, each trying to strategize their next move in this unfolding economic drama. China faces a hefty 34% tariff on top of existing ones. This move is expected to significantly impact Chinese exports, potentially leading to a slowdown in their economic growth. The EU is hit with a 20% tariff. European leaders have expressed their dismay, warning that such measures could strain transatlantic relations and lead to retaliatory actions. Even US allies like Japan and Canada are not spared, facing 24% and 25% tariffs respectively. This has raised concerns about the future of long-standing alliances and trade agreements. Smaller nations like Cambodia and Vietnam face a staggering 49% and 46% respectively. These countries, heavily reliant on exports, are bracing for severe economic repercussions. Trump claims these tariffs will revitalize US manufacturing. He argues that by making imported goods more expensive, American-made products will become more competitive, leading to job creation and economic growth. He argues they are necessary to address trade imbalances and protect national security. Trump has long maintained that unfair trade practices have hurt the US economy, and these tariffs are his solution to level the playing field. However, critics fear a global trade war. Economists warn that such protectionist measures could lead to retaliatory tariffs from other nations, escalating into a full-blown trade conflict that could harm the global economy. The ramifications of such a conflict could be devastating. Empty store shelves, rising prices, and factory closures are just some of the potential outcomes that experts are predicting. This is not the first time Trump has employed tariffs as a tool. His previous trade war with China had already rattled global markets, causing significant economic disruptions and uncertainties. The new tariffs, however, are far broader in scope, affecting a wider range of countries and industries. They encompass a wide array of products and target multiple countries, signaling a more aggressive stance on trade. They signal a significant escalation in Trump's protectionist agenda. As the world braces for the impact, the true consequences of these tariffs remain to be seen. But one thing is certain: the global economic landscape is about to change dramatically. The announcement of these sweeping tariffs sent immediate tremors through global markets. Stock markets in the US and Asia experienced sharp declines. The Nikkei index in Japan plummeted to an 8-month low. Investor confidence has been shaken. The specter of a global trade war looms large. This uncertainty has led to a massive sell-off in the stock market. Since mid-February, US stocks have hemorrhaged almost $5 trillion. Experts warn of a potential recession. JP Morgan Chase, a leading financial institution, predicts a possible recession in both the US and the global economy. Fitch Ratings, a credit rating agency, echoes this sentiment, highlighting the growing risk of an economic downturn. The market reaction underscores the gravity of the situation. The tariffs have injected a significant degree of instability into the global economy. This uncertainty is fueling fears of a recession. While Trump touts these tariffs as a win for America, he claims they will protect domestic industries and create jobs by making imported goods more expensive and less attractive to consumers. This, he argues, will encourage Americans to buy domestically produced products, thereby boosting the local economy. However, the reality for everyday Americans might be different. Many families are already feeling the pinch as they navigate the aisles of their local grocery stores where prices have noticeably increased. The cost of basic necessities like milk, bread, and fresh produce has surged, leaving consumers to make tough choices about what they can afford. Economists predict a surge in prices for various goods, impacting consumers across the board. They warn that the tariffs could lead to inflationary pressures, making it more expensive for families to maintain their standard of living. Financial analysts are closely monitoring the situation, as the ripple effects of these tariffs could extend far beyond the grocery store. From electronics and clothing to cars and groceries, the cost of living is set to rise. Retailers are already adjusting their price tags to reflect the increased costs of imported goods. This means that consumers will have to dig deeper into their pockets for everyday items, from the latest smartphone to a new pair of jeans. The auto industry in particular is expected to be hit hard. Car manufacturers rely heavily on imported parts to assemble their vehicles, and the tariffs will increase production costs significantly. This will inevitably be passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices for new cars. The tariffs on imported cars and car parts could increase prices by $5,000 to $20,000. This substantial hike will make it difficult for many Americans to afford a new vehicle, forcing them to either delay their purchase or settle for a used car. This will make new vehicles unaffordable for many Americans. The dream of owning a brand new car will become out of reach for a significant portion of the population, leading to a potential decline in car sales and a slowdown in the auto industry. Even US assembled cars will see price increases due to tariffs on imported parts. The interconnected nature of global supply chains means that domestic manufacturers are not immune to the effects of these tariffs. As a result, consumers will face higher prices regardless of whether they choose an imported or domestically produced vehicle. Former Vice President Mike Pence, a staunch Republican, has criticized the tariffs. He argues that while the intention behind the tariffs may be to protect American jobs, the actual outcome could be quite the opposite, leading to job losses in industries that rely on imported materials. He calls them the largest peacetime tax hike in US history. Pence believes that the financial burden placed on American families and businesses will outweigh any potential benefits, ultimately harming the economy more than helping it. Pence estimates the tariffs could cost American families an additional $3,500 or more per year. This added expense will strain household budgets, forcing families to cut back on discretionary spending and prioritize essential expenses. The tariffs are essentially a tax on imported goods. When these goods enter the country, the tariffs are applied, increasing their cost. Importers then pass these costs on to retailers, who in turn pass them on to consumers. This tax will be passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices. As a result, the cost of everyday items will rise, making it more challenging for families to make ends meet. The increased cost of living will squeeze household budgets, potentially impacting consumer spending and overall economic growth. As families tighten their belts, there could be a ripple effect throughout the economy, leading to slower growth and reduced consumer confidence. Section 4. Global Backlash. Allies and Rivals Condemn Tariffs. The international response to Trump's tariff announcement has been swift and overwhelmingly negative. Leaders from around the world have voiced their concerns, highlighting the potential for a global trade war. The tariffs, which target steel and aluminium imports, have been met with fierce opposition from both allies and rivals of the United States. US allies, many of whom have benefited from decades of trade liberalization, have expressed their condemnation. These countries argue that the tariffs undermine the principles of free trade and could lead to retaliatory measures that would harm the global economy. The G7 summit in particular saw heated discussions as leaders debated the implications of these tariffs. They view these tariffs as a betrayal of trust and a threat to the global trading system. Trade agreements that took years to negotiate are now at risk, and the sense of cooperation that has been built over decades is being tested. The broken handshake symbolizes the fractured relationships that are emerging as a result of these policies. Canada, a close ally and trading partner, has already retaliated. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been vocal in his opposition, stating that the tariffs are unacceptable and unjust. The Canada-US border, once a symbol of strong economic ties, is now a focal point of tension. They have imposed a 25% tariff on US steel and aluminium. This move is seen as a direct response to protect Canadian industries and workers. The impact on the steel and aluminium sectors is significant, with factories and production lines feeling the immediate effects. The European Union, another key ally, is preparing its own countermeasures. Officials in Brussels have been working tirelessly to develop a strategic response. The European Parliament has held emergency sessions to discuss the potential fallout and to coordinate a unified stance against the US tariffs. They plan to target iconic American products like beef and bourbon. These goods were chosen not only for their economic value, but also for their symbolic significance. By targeting these products, the EU aims to send a strong message to the US administration about the consequences of their trade policies. China, often at the receiving end of Trump's trade ire, has vowed to take countermeasures. President Xi Jinping has made it clear that China will not back down and is prepared to defend its economic interests. The cargo ships in Chinese ports are a reminder of the vast trade network that could be disrupted by these tariffs. South Korea has called the situation extremely serious. The South Korean government is deeply concerned about the potential impact on its economy, which relies heavily on exports. Officials are in constant communication with their US counterparts, seeking a resolution to the escalating trade tensions. Australia has condemned the tariffs, describing them as a step backward for global trade. The Australian Prime Minister has emphasised the importance of maintaining open markets and has called for a return to constructive dialogue. While New Zealand has expressed relief at receiving a lower 10% rate, however, even with this lower rate, there are concerns about the long-term implications for New Zealand's trade relationships and economic stability. The global community watches closely as these developments unfold, hoping for a resolution that will restore balance to international trade. Section 5, retaliation, is in the air. Trade war escalation looms. The global trading system is teetering on the brink. With the US imposing tariffs and other countries retaliating, the situation threatens to spiral into a full-blown trade war. This tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs will disrupt global supply chains, increase costs for businesses, and ultimately harm consumers worldwide. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has warned of a fundamental change to the international trading system. He argues that these tariffs undermine the rules-based order that has underpinned global trade for decades. The EU's Trade Commissioner has called for dialogue and de-escalation. However, they have also made it clear that the EU will defend its interests. The threat of retaliation hangs heavy in the air, raising the stakes and increasing the likelihood of a trade war. Section 6. Divided we stand. US political landscape reacts. The tariff announcement has exposed a deep divide within the US political landscape. While some Republicans continue to support Trump's protectionist policies, others have joined Democrats in condemning the tariffs. The Senate, in a rare bipartisan vote, approved a resolution to terminate the tariffs imposed on Canada. 4 Republicans broke ranks with their party to join the Democrats in passing the resolution. This signifies the growing unease about the tariffs even within the president's own party. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, a staunch Trump ally, has defended the tariffs. He argues they are necessary to protect American jobs and industries. However, he has also warned against retaliation, suggesting that the US will respond with further tariff increases.